So hello, welcome everyone. So thank you for the ones who have already joined. And we'll be starting the webinar class today. So let's start. The subject of this webinar is how to add delight to your roadmap with Nesrine Changuel. So thank you, Nesrine, for taking the time to join us and share your insights.
Thank you, Violette. Happy to be here.
Let me start by introducing myself. I'm Violet. I'm the social media manager at Productized, and today I will be your host for the fourth edition of our webinar series, not 100 this time. And I'm really glad to be here with you all. So now we're going to quickly talk about Productized. As you probably all know, Productized organize a conference every year, and the first one was held in 2015. This is actually a picture of the very first event at Productized. We can see also this picture, which was taken when Productized was born. And so, as I told you, this event has been happening every year, driven by passion, obviously. And we have invited iconic thought leaders, including Nesrine. I think you were already at Productized conference back in 2023, but also Rich Mironov, Teresa Torres, Radhika Dutt, Melissa Perry, and many others. And we've put together a playlist called 10 Years in 10 Talks on our YouTube channel. So go check it out. It's really worth watching. And now to give a little bit of numbers on Productized, we have had over 4,000 participants, which is just very huge and crazy, and over 1,000 hours of product training. Also over 65 different nationalities from all over the world, with more than 100 workshops, more than 100 conference talk, and community of 1,000 products. And this year, we will also make it with attendees from leading companies like Netflix, Facebook, Google, but also more smaller companies. And so for this year, it's the 10th edition. It's going to happen on October 15 to 17. So on October 15, it's going to be the Leader Day. And on October 16 and 17, it's the actual conference day. And the main topic of this year's conference is how to create change together. And concerning the venue, it's happening at the Film Meeting Center. It's a new venue, and yeah, that's very cool. We'll have there 12 hands-on workshops on October 16. Then 11 inspiring talks and panels on October 17. It will allow our attendees to network with a lot of people. We have a generous coffee from professional barista and generous breaks, and and also a cool vibe with DJ, music, wine, and also an after party. So stay until the end because that's very great. And then for the tickets, so tickets are on sale now with the early bird discount. It's 25% off, but only until the end of June. That's just about 2 weeks left. So don't miss it and buy your ticket before. So now let me just read Nesrine's bio, which, by the way, is very impressive, to give a little bit of context. So Nesrine Changuel is a seasoned product leader, speaker, and coach with over 10 years of experience at top companies like Google, Spotify, and Microsoft. She's known for building user-centric products that don't just retain users, but actually create emotional connections with them. Over the years, she's worked on some really innovative stuff, especially in media, video, and audio. One standout is that she helped build Skype for HoloLens in collaboration with NASA. And today she's focused on mentoring the next generation of product leaders and helping teams design products that truly resonate with users. All right, so I'm going to stop my share right now, and it's my pleasure to hand it over to Nesrine, and I invite you all to tune in, and I'm excited to see what we'll learn from today's session. Thank you, Nesrine.
Thank you. Thanks, Violette, for the intro. And thanks, Andre, again, for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to share insight and share my experience with the productized community. I love that. I hear like Violette talking about the conference. It's an amazing conference for those who have not been. I always refer to it as one of my favorite. And people know how many conferences I've been to. So you definitely have to be there. Do you see my screen, by the way, just to confirm that you received my screen? Okay, cool. So today I'm going to talk about a topic that is very close to my heart, a topic that I'm fully dedicating myself to because I strongly believe in it. So I'm excited to share these beliefs with you, and I hope I can get not only the belief, but also the actionability of it, so you can also apply it in your world as well. I'm going to be talking about delight, so don't worry, it's not a buzzword this time. It's going to be something that you can apply, and I'm coming with tools for that. And in order to start, I want to share a little bit about my story. I know Violette did a great job with the bio, but to explain why I'm so convinced in the concept of delight and emotional connection, it all started, of course, throughout my journey. And I started as a researcher. So the first icon that you see on the left is my research time at Alcatel-Lucent Bell Labs, where I used to be a research engineer working on identifying prototypes and innovative solutions. But then at some point, after being a researcher for about 5 years, I really missed the application part. I had to see how it ends and how it lands into the user's hand. So I moved to the product management side. I've been a product manager and leader at globally used and loved products like Skype, Spotify, Google Meet, and lately Google Chrome. It's been about 20 years of my career building those products. And I came to a conclusion recently, just by reflecting on what's really in common in those successful companies, I came to the conclusion that actually these companies invest heavily. Like when I say heavily, it's like really heavily into creating emotional connection between their products and their users. So it's not only about the functionality part, but there is something extra that they add into the products that makes them stand out and make them differentiate in such crowded market. And being so convinced about the topic, I left Google actually last year with a mission, a very clear mission, which is help companies and product leaders and product teams get into this concept of delight and this concept of emotional connection so that they can apply it to their products as well. And this is what I will be talking about today. So let's start. What is delight? What is this delight that Nesrine is talking too much about? I mean, if you want me to simplify the concept, it's all about, as I said earlier, about creating emotional connection between the product and users. Because at the end of the day, users use a product not only for the functional part of it, there's sometimes also some emotional needs that need to be honored. And if you build a product that not only solves for functional need, but also take into consideration and addresses the emotional needs, then you create this mix that what I call the delight. So the delight is all about creating products that go beyond functionality and honor emotional needs. And we're going to go through example later so you get more grasp into what it is. Now, if you want a better understanding, you need also to know what are the three main pillars for delight. And I define three main pillars that help you get a better understanding of what it is. The first one is the fact that it has to address pain point. So think about moments where you are feeling a bit of frustration and suddenly the product offers you a solution that suddenly set this frustration away. These are moments that we remember and they become like a memorable moment, and then suddenly we start to have better feeling about the product. The best example I can share with you here is password management. Like I love this feature, even if it's weird to tell you that I love password management. But the reason why I love password management, because it's always saving me in the moment that I hate the most. Like when you are in front of a web page and you can't remember at all what you set as a password, and suddenly the app is just giving it to you. I mean, these are moments where it turns frustration into big relief. So that's the first pillar. It's about addressing pain point. However, the product is not only for addressing pain. Sometimes needs are not about pain, and the needs can sometimes be realized only when we see the solution offered to us. And that's why the second pillar is about anticipating need. It's not about meeting needs. You need to get the difference here. I'm not saying that the product has to meet your needs. The product has to anticipate the need, so that I know you so well that I know what you need. I'm going to offer that to you before you even ask me for it. And I have another example for you here, an example that I personally worked on, which is the background replace or the background blur. We proposed background replace during COVID time because we immediately realized that when people are having their calls, and I see Andre using it and putting a heart on it, which is lovely. But the fact that people are all moving into having those calls from home, they needed to protect their privacy. So we immediately prioritize that feature and put it in front of the users. And the pillar number 3, which is equally important, which is exceeding expectation. It's not meeting expectation again, because I see a lot of companies trying to meet users' expectation. If you meet your users' expectation, then that's the bare minimum, because if you're not even meeting it, that's not acceptable. So it's about exceeding expectation, giving them something extra. Again, about surprising them. And the example that I have for you is something that I experienced very recently myself. So if you are, for example, browsing on Edge, there's a feature called coupons. And it happens to me like 2 weeks ago. I was trying to browse and search for a coffee machine. And when I get to the like a payment part, Edge suggested a coupon. I was not looking for a coupon. Of course, there is an area for coupon, but Edge said, hey, do you want to try this coupon? I put it on and I get 10% off. So yeah, why not? Because of course I love it, because I was not asking for a coupon, but the fact that the app anticipated and exceeded my expectation, I was happy with it. So I know like Microsoft are not rebranded the feature. It's not called coupon anymore. I think it's called cashback, but it's something, again, I think very aligned with exceeding expectation. So these are the 3 pillars. Like when you're building product, think about how can you address pain point, how can you anticipate users' need, and how can you exceed expectations so that you can create this emotional connection. Now, the question again is, why is it so important? I think it's even more important than ever nowadays. I mean, if you look at how crowded the tech market today and how many apps are around, it's even more important today to stand out and differentiate yourself. And the main way to differentiate yourself is to use this emotional connection part. And I want to validate what I'm talking to you with very, very solid research that have been recently done by giant firms. And those firms are Capgemini, McKinsey, Deloitte, and even Harvard Business Review. So do you believe me if I tell you like these 4 giants studied the exact same phenomenon just over the last couple of years? Like think about the last 4 years' time, they studied the exact same thing. They actually studied the impact of emotional connection on users' adoption. So is there any connection between these two? And before I even tell you the result of the studies, the fact that these giants studied the exact same thing is a proof by itself that there is a big interest that the most industries are putting into the topic of emotion. Now, when it comes to results, it was very impressive, because what I found while reading those reports is the consistency. I found a consistency among these 4 that there are 3 main huge product metrics that are highly impacted by introducing emotional connection. Metric number 1 is retention. Actually, emotionally connected users are 50% more loyal. They would stay longer and they will use your product even more than others. Metric number 2 is revenue. Yes, revenue, money. It's like emotionally connected users are twice more likely to buy more products and services from you. And metric number 3, which is also extremely important, is referral, or what we call the word of mouth, because emotionally connected users are 60% more likely to actively promote and talk about your product among their friends and families and community. So just think about these 3 metrics. If you can just double them, and by the way, what I didn't told you so far is that these percentage are compared to highly satisfied users. So when I say 50% more loyal compared to highly satisfied one, I'm not even talking about those that are not satisfied. So the impact could be huge by investing into this topic. Now, if you get the definition and you get the why, it's really important to quickly jump into how can I apply this to my product as well. And I know that you may be probably saying like, yeah, but rich company or big company like Microsoft or Spotify or Apple or Google, they can allow to invest in building delight and building emotional connection. And yes, I agree with that. But now what I will be offering you today is a way to also apply that to actually any product and any industry, because I created what I call the delight model. So the delight model is a step-by-step process that we will be spending the rest of the time walking through it in order to address and achieve this well-believed delight concept. And this process actually, as every product process, happen in 2 spaces. There is the opportunity space where we explore potential ideas and opportunities, and there is the solution space where we turn these opportunities into concrete products and concrete solutions. So the delight model is, as I told you, a 4-step process. And the very first one, which I want to start focusing on, is identifying motivators. Actually, it's about identifying what motivates users to use your product. So when you're building a product from scratch or even a new feature, the very first thing that most product leaders or product managers start doing is identifying their personas and segmenting their personas. But what I've seen most is that people, especially a product manager, either use demographic segmentation as like a who are my users, or they use behavioral segmentation, which is the what do they do, like how they use the product, for example. But the most important one that I want to highlight today is that there is, and the best segmentation that could highly impact and positively impact your product is the motivational segmentation. It's about dividing your personas based on what motivates them the most, because actually users are not using your product for the same reason. And if you segment those, you can have a better understanding on what do you want to serve them so that you honor their motivations. We need to know that there are 2 types of motivators. There are the functional motivators and there are the emotional motivators. The functional motivators are actually the easiest to identify. I think most companies are doing great when it comes to identifying functional motivator. For example, I want to book a flight. I want to send a text message. I want to book a hotel. These are functional motivation. And it's usually related to solving a problem or creating something more effectively or easier to use. Now, the second type of motivation is the emotional motivators. And these are actually harder. And I don't want to lie to you. These are harder to identify because sometimes users themselves, they're not even aware about what motivates them on the emotional level. I want to give you an example. Like, I'm a Spotify user, and sometimes I go to Spotify to search for a specific song, but sometimes I go to Spotify because I feel lonely. So the loneliness part, like filling in the loneliness part, is an emotional motivator. It's definitely not a functional motivator. We also should be aware that the emotional motivator could be personal or emotional. Let me explain. So personal emotional motivator is about what the user wants to feel while using the product. The social emotional motivator is about what the user wants other to feel about them while using the product. Did you get the difference? It's like the first is what the user want to feel. The second is what the user want others to feel about them. And those two are actually important, because sometimes, like for example, I found this cartoon image recently, and I think it represents very well the social part of the emotional motivators. It says like, quickly download Spotify so that we can feel part of something. And sometimes you're using a product because you want to feel connected or you want to feel part of something. So it's important to mix and identify both motivators, like from a personal and a social side. So that's what I call the, let's say, the motivator map. So as I said earlier, it could be functional motivators and it could be emotional motivators. And it's really important as a product manager to start every project or every feature or every product by identifying those different categories. So let's do a case study. If you get the concept, it should be easy now to apply this motivator map to the Spotify case. So what could be functional motivator for Spotify user? Of course, the list could be huge. I'm going to share with you 3 just to get the concept. But for example, I can go to Spotify because I want to enjoy high quality music. Or I can go to Spotify because I want to discover new content, like I have no idea what I want to listen to, but inspire me. Or I want to search for a specific audio track. For example, I heard about Taylor Swift new album. I want to go and I want to hear that one. So these are some examples of functional motivators. When it comes to the emotional motivators, it could be something like, I want to feel more immersed, or I want to self-express myself, or I want to feel connected, or I want to change my mood. So as I told you, this is a very simplified case study in order to get the difference between the 2 types of motivators. But the idea is to list them and to try to get as much motivators as you can into the different categories. And of course, the obvious question should be, how can I get into these emotion motivator? How do I even identify those? And I'm not coming with a magic solution, to be honest with you, because the very most effective solution for that is users' insights, is talking to users. Just think about the best gift you get in your life. The best gift you get is probably not the one that is the most expensive, or it's definitely not the random one. It's the one that is thoughtful. Someone thought about your values, thought about what you really prefer, your taste, your setting, your preferences, and came up with that gift for you. It's actually the same for product. Like, you need to treat your product as a gift for your users. And if you want to surprise them or make them happy, it's important that this gift or this product meets their needs and their motivator. For example, like just I'm listing some example of what can you ask user to identify those motivator. You can ask things like, how did you feel when you first started using the product? Or tell me about the journey while using the product and describe your feeling throughout that journey. So it's about putting a bit of emphasis into the emotional part and not only focus on what's your pain, what's your challenge, how can I help, etc. Okay, so that was the very first step of the delight model. Now we're getting into the second step, which is about turning and converting those motivators into product opportunities. So if you did your job well and you have a list of motivators, you need to convert them into concrete product opportunities. And I love the double diamond framework. I don't know if you've seen this framework before. It's a very widely used in multiple industries and domain, but it actually, I just tweaked it a little bit so that it starts with motivator, you go broad and you explore different opportunities, and then you convert into what's the list of opportunity you want to focus on. And then when we get to the solution space, you do the same until you get to the delightful solution that you're hoping for. And I have a very concrete example to share with you, particularly in this step. So I actually joined Google Meet right when pandemic hit Europe. So it was February like the COVID time. And of course, it's a special time for Google Meet because people are moved from having meetings in offices, in classroom, in clinics to 100% remote. And it was technically challenging, of course. Like for Google Meet, we had to address the scale and the load, etc. But as a product manager, I actually, particularly for new product manager who just joined the team, I spent months, like really a lot of time trying to understand the emotional impact of this new behavior. Like what was the emotional impact of moving 100% remote? And of course, I interviewed a lot of users trying to understand the shift and the emotional impact and the psychological impact as well. And a lot of things came during those interviews. Like people are saying, I want to feel connected, or I want to feel part of the meeting, or I feel boredom, or there's a low interaction. And I summarized those into these three. Like people expressed a lot of boredom, they expressed a lot of low interaction and a need for interaction as before. And there was even a term that was born during that time, which is the Zoom fatigue. It's funny. I mean, I know we're on Zoom here, but for me, I was happy it was called Zoom fatigue because it's always better to put negative things on the competitor. But anyway, so as a PM, I took these, let's say in this case, demotivators. I put them and I said, how can we solve them? And the best way to do that was to frame them into a how might we case. Like I love this how might we statement because it's always like very centric toward solving for the motivator. And in this case, it will look like something like, how might we improve meeting experience for participants in prolonged online meeting in order to maintain their engagement and reduce their sense of boredom? So you see, it started from this sense of boredom and low engagement and low interaction, and we wanted to explore opportunities to solve for that. And of course, there have been a lot of potential solutions, and we brainstormed over multiple sessions, and we built this. We build emoji reaction at the time. Like, of course, now every tool have it, but at that time, it was an interesting feature that we added in order to allow users to feel a bit more present. Because it felt a bit invasive to unmute yourself to say that you agree, and also commenting like take energy or take efforts, and people love when it's not like when it's effortless. So we introduced emojis and reaction, and our users loved it. Like they loved it so much, they didn't just use it. Of course, usage is a sign of success, and adoption is a sign of success. But in this case, people reach out to ask for more emojis to represent more emotions. So it was a really interesting project to work on. Okay, so, we're actually stepping into this solution space now. So if we identify the motivators and we converted them into opportunities, I guess if you're working in a product team, you have a bunch of brilliant engineers next to you. And of course, you can do some brainwriting or brainstorming sessions to come up with a multitude of potential solutions. But the question, and the hard question to answer, is how can I know if these solutions are delightful? How do I know if these solutions, and guarantee that these solutions will create this emotional connection that I'm hoping for? And for that, I created a tool, actually, and I'm happy to provide this tool to you today, which is called the Delight Grid. So the Delight Grid is a tool that lists the motivators that we spoke about in the first step. So do you remember those emotional motivators and functional motivators that you have to identify in the first step? You just have to list them in this grid. So think about the vertical motivators is for the functional ones, and the horizontal one is for the emotional motivators. So you list those in the grid. That's the first step to start using the Delight Grid. Then you will take your list of solutions and you try to put them in the grid. How do you put them in the grid? By saying, let's take solution number 1. You ask yourself, which among those motivators am I solving for? Does solution 1 solve for emotional motivator 1 or 2 or 3 or 5? Does it solve for any functional motivator? First, if it doesn't solve for any motivator, then you probably have to question whether it's important or not. Second, If it's only solving for a functional motivator, think about it solving for functional motivator 1 or 2 or whatever, but no emotional element into it, then it belongs to a category that I call the low delight. If your solution is solving only for an emotional motivator and there is no functional motivator at all, then it belongs to what I call the surface delight. If you have a feature that is solving for both, it means it is solving for an emotional motivator and a functional motivator, then it belongs to what I call the deep delight. So the beauty of this tool is actually it has two huge advantages. The first one, it is mapping features to real users motivator, which for me is extremely important. If it doesn't match, then there is a problem. And the second advantage is that it's give you this categorization side, like knowing that am I in the low delight space, surface delight space, or deep delight space. And now I want you to get the following. I'm not saying that you should not build low delight or you should not build surface delight or focus on deep delight. What I'm saying here and what I insist on is that the beauty, and that's exactly what I've seen in most successful companies, the beauty is if you create a bouquet, it means a combination of some low delight features, some surface delight features, and some deep delight features. Make sure that your roadmap is a combination of low delight, surface delight, and deep delight, so that you have and you create this personality and that brand that you're looking for. Again, case study. Let's do the case study again, because it's always very, that's what stick, I guess. So back to the Spotify case study. When I worked at Spotify, I had the chance to work on some of the most well-known features like Discover Weekly, for example, you know, that weekly personalized playlist that you get. I worked on Spotify by Lyric, which is the possibility of actually searching for a song without knowing the exact title, so you put random names. I worked on normalization. It's an interesting feature because, you know, when at the Spotify, when we receive albums, we receive them with different volume. So when you create your playlist, it's really important, really, really important that your playlist is normalized in terms of volume. Otherwise, I think people will just kill us. The other feature, of course, Wrapped was a very interesting. It's an interesting feature to talk about. I can talk about it for hours, but it's a lovely feature. It's what you get like the end of year retrospective. I worked on Jam, which is actually a feature that allows people to listen to music in a common or shared room. You know, for example, if you don't want to listen by yourself, you can create a jam and listen with others. And a funny feature, I don't know if you've noticed it at some point, which when the Star Wars lightsaber, when it turns the progress bar into a lightsaber when you're listening to a Star Wars themed track. So let's do this exercise. Let's place these features into the delight grade. And for that, I guess you remember the emotional and the functional motivator that we studied in the first case study, right? So I placed them in the grade. The functional motivators are high quality content. I want to discover new content. I want to search for audio content. And for the emotional side, I put the feel immersion, self-expression, and feel connected. And how do we place those features in the grade? This is how I place them. It means that a feature like normalization, the volume setting side, there is no emotion side into it. It only contributes in enjoying high quality. So it is a low delight feature. Same for search by lyrics. So if you search for a song by using random words, then it helps you achieve the search for audio content, but there is no emotion side into it. Now, features like Star Wars lightsaber or even Wrapped, yes, Wrapped. These are features that do not have any functional motivator, right? Like it's all about emotion here. And so these are surface delight features. And the last two are Discover Weekly and Spotify Jam. These I classify as deep delight. Why? Because yes, they help you discover new content, but there is a bit of personalization in the Discover Weekly. So it's about self-expression. And also Spotify Jam, same, you want to feel connected as well. Okay, so that's how we use the delight grid. Now, I want to, I told you about Wrapped. Wrapped is an amazing feature and And again, this is a feature that is purely emotional. It's about making you feel how cool you are so you can share it with others. And just this feature, like this emotional feature, contributed in 2020 in more than 20% of the app download. So think about how an emotional feature that sometimes that has nothing to do with any functionality can have a huge impact in the product. I don't think there is any other feature that contributed as much in the success. So sometimes it's really important to squeeze in not only a functional feature, but make sure that your roadmap contain also a bit of emotional ones as well. Cool. We're getting to the fourth step of the delight model. And if you already have those solutions placed on the grid and you are about to build them, I'm adding a validation step here. It's important to know that the delight, again, is very well achieved. And the reason for me this step is extremely important because, yes, it's not only about advantages. Like I've been selling delight as an important tool of differentiation, but it comes with some risks. And it's really important that you get aware about those risks. And I'm going to list now in the following slide the list of risks that can come with delight so that you can mitigate them, make sure that you don't fall into the trap. Okay, so risk number one is the disconnection of impact. And since I'm coaching company now to how to build delightful product, I see sometimes some tentative initiatives where they try to add delight, but it's completely disconnected from the business goal, from the user impact, from the company vision. So delight is not an excuse to add confetti for nothing. I'm not here to say that add confetti or add Easter egg and there is absolutely no value for the user. So make sure that the delightful feature, again, is serving for the user or for the business at least. The risk number two is distraction. Again, the reason why I'm highlighting this because I've seen it in some product where, for example, I've been in a company the other day doing a workshop, and someone said, "Hey, we have this feature where if you shake your phone, you have snowflake falling." And I was like, "Why? I mean, it can only add some distraction here. Just think about Clippy. I don't know, like Clippy is from my generation. This Microsoft." I see some people laughing, so some are from my generation. I mean, it was again another initiative by Microsoft, and it was a failure. I mean, the initiative was supposed to be delightful, but Clippy is this small tool that jump on your desktop in order to provide advice, but it never managed to provide any advice. It was just distraction. RIP Clippy, yes. And actually, Microsoft decided to kill Clippy only after 10 years. I was very surprised how it did survive 10 years before it get killed. Discontinuity. Yes, this is very important because sometimes people have this brilliant idea of, yes, we're going to build some delightful feature, but then they stop forever, or like for years. There's a phenomenon called the habituation effect. If you build a delightful solution, people get excited and they get happy about it. But then the habituation effect take over because people get habituated and they are not surprised and they are not happy anymore. So if you want to keep this brand and this personality perspective, it's really important that you maintain the delight in your roadmap. The best example I want to share with you is that when we actually introduced background replace in Google Meet, we first introduced it as a static image. And then people loved it. So what can we do in order to maintain this love? Next step was we're going to allow people to change their background with a video. So we allowed video background change. And then people loved it for a while. And we need to find something else now. We introduced immersive background where you actually can have it looks like a chimney behind or snowflake, but it's very, very subtle with light. And the last iteration was you actually can generate your background with AI. So you will have your personalized background. So just telling this story because delight is not a one-off. It's something that you have to maintain as part of your culture, as part of your strategy. And the last two, one is feasibility. Yeah, sometimes, especially when I do workshop with companies, they have a brilliant idea. As soon as you start thinking about it, is it feasible? I think it's not supposed to take like the year roadmap. It has to be small enough so that you can maintain it. If it's too big, people will, the company will quickly drop it. And the last one, the reason why I let it last, because it's extremely important, is inclusivity. Because when we talk about emotion, what please me is not necessarily what please you. What makes you happy is not necessarily what make me happy. So how can we make sure that we build emotional features that works for everyone? And that's, by the way, an extremely important example. And I have a great example to share with you here. It's something that did happen last year here in France. You know, the company Deliveroo, you know, the food delivery company. During Mother's Day, they wanted to do something nice and something emotional. So they had a campaign where they actually send you a text message saying, missed call from your mom. So the design looks exactly like a missed call, but it's a notification. And if you click on it, you get, hey, it's Mother's Day, send your mother flowers or send your mother a gift. But it had a huge bad press. Why? Because not everyone can enjoy having missed call from your mom. Not everyone has the luxury to receive it as well. So it actually get one of the worst press coverage, and Deliveroo had to apologize for that in France last year. So think about how could it be inclusive, and how can it, how is it not harmful for anyone? Okay, so for that, I created what I call the Delight Checklist, or the Delight Excellence Checklist. It's a list. Once you have your solution that you go through, it's very related to the risk that I spoke about earlier. It's a yes or no, but again, I think it's an eye-opening list that allows you to see whether is it feasible or not, is it exclusive or not, does it bring distraction or not. You can have access to the slides, so I'm happy to share this list with you as well at the end. I'm getting to the end of this talk, and I want to share the fact that since last year, and since I started talking a lot about delight, I quickly realized that this topic is much bigger than talks and workshops. It deserves something bigger, and I started writing a book about it. So I'm super excited to share today for the very first time what the book will look like, because the book is called Product Delight. I'm feeling very emotional today because I'm sharing this cover for the very first time. It's been a lot of hard work behind it, but the book is a storybook, because I'm calling it here like a personal product stories. Of course, some stories from my own, like from my own product, but also from many other product leaders in different industries like Dyson, Atlassian, GitHub, and so many others that generously shared their stories and insights as well, hoping that it will inspire you and give you the tool in order to build more delightful products as well. The other exciting news I want to share is that this book is coming for pre-order starting next week. So stay tuned. And of course, before we end, I want to leave you with these 3 key messages. Delight is not a nice to have anymore. Not now, at least, not today. It is a must have to differentiate yourself and stand out. The second key message is delight drives impact. And we've seen that from the research. That's exactly how you can bring in more revenues, more referral, etc. And the good news is that delight is actionable today, because you have the delight model, and it's a framework that you can apply. And I made sure, and I was obsessed about making it applicable to all industries and all products. So hope you can try it and let me know. With that, I'm sharing this QR code so that you can, of course, access to the slide. I set the slide on my Substack page. You can also subscribe for more delight tips, and stay tuned with the book launch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nesrine, for this wonderful presentation. We have a few minutes for questions, so anyone feel free to jump in and ask your question, if you have.
Nesrine, thank you for the presentation. It was very cool. And I have a question like, how hard it is to implement delightful features, delightful products, because it's like, it's hard to find out what motivates people unconsciously, but it's also maybe hard to sell to the stakeholders that's worth the time for a feature that's delightful, if not functional.
Absolutely. Thanks, Diego, for the great question, by the way. Let me try to answer it differently. To be honest with you, the first part is not hard at all. Like coming up with delightful ideas and coming up with delightful solution is usually quite easy. And people, especially like in the company, loves bringing delightful feature to the product. However, I totally agree with you. The second part is much more complex. Getting buy-in from the leaders and stakeholders that's exactly something that we need to prioritize and squeeze it into the roadmap is usually hard, especially when the company is not convinced by the delight mindset. That's why I highly encourage people to start small. Do you remember when I said don't get big delightful features into your roadmap? Because if you get it big from the beginning, it takes time and it's really hard to validate it quickly, and then you will get people saying no to it. So actually what I also suggested recently is a model that I call the 50-40-10 model. So the 50-40-10 model is a prioritization, let's say recommendation, where you can prioritize 50% of your roadmap for low delight. Yes, 50% for functionality only, 40% for deep delight. And deep delight is actually functionality, but thought differently. Functionality thought with a touch of emotion, think about Discover Weekly or something like that. And only 10% goes to surface delight. Only 10% goes to small things that are not functional at all. And it's much less harder to sell 10% or 5%. So start small, start with 1 or 2 features a year, maybe 1 feature a year, validated, and then try to keep it continuous in the company.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tiago, for your question. Maybe someone has another question. We have some time to. Anyone who wanted to dive in?
Hey, I'll go.
Maybe. Oh, okay.
Thanks, Violet. Thanks, Nesrine. That was a great presentation. First of all, thank you for demystifying the buzzword user delight. At least for me, it was great to see such a comprehensive definition and set of real guidelines for what this means. I feel like we toss it out so much, but we don't really understand the meaning behind it. So thank you for that. Secondly, traditionally, I feel like we're taught to solve, or we're trained to solve high functional problems. Users are not clicking, replace this button, etc. But we don't know if it's making users happy or feel great. So in terms of unique metrics to track emotional delight,
Yes.
what have you run into on your experiences? Are there specific metrics that highlight those user delight type functionality?
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, I love what you said about demystifying, because yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. It's trying giving it more words and more explanation behind the buzzword. And I love your question about how to measure delight and how to measure emotional connection, because we actually know how to measure clicks and how to measure adoption. But yes, there are metrics actually to measure emotional connection. Some companies do have specific metrics to measure this part. Of course, the most familiar one is HEART framework, which starts with H for happiness. And in order to measure happiness, there are some tools for that. Of course, there are NPS and CSAT are the most obvious one. But there is one, for example, at Google we used to use. It's called the HAT survey. HAT, HAT. It stands for Happiness Tracking Survey. which is actually a little bit like CSAT, but a bit more tweaked toward emotion. And it allows you, when you have a new feature, for example, showing it for the first time to a user, you get a pop-up asking you about your feeling and your emotion toward that. There are a lot of actually research paper about HAT survey and some example about how you craft your HAT survey. I know I'm not getting too deep into the answer to your question, but I'm just trying to say that yes, we can build specific metric to measure emotional connection. And it has to be, by the way, part of your key metrics. It has to be part of the North Star metric, like the satisfaction and the happiness of user, not just the adoption. Because and also the other thing that I noticed while building product like Spotify or Google Meet is that there is a huge correlation between happiness and adoption and retention as well. Like people, if they are emotionally connected and they are happy, of course they stay longer. So the retention is impacted positively. I'm not saying that that should be the only metric, but it is a key metric to track in order to see if people are happy or not.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll take a look into the HTS survey. I haven't heard of that one before.
Yes. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. If you couldn't find it, I can send you a link as well.
Yeah. It reminds me of those kiosks at the airport that have the smiley face, the sad face. That's kind of like an emotional survey in a way.
I don't know how much that works because my kids will always press on random
Right?
button. But
I know. It's good in terms of like theory, it's good.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bruno. If someone have a last question to ask, feel free also.
If you don't have question now, but question come up later, I'm putting the link for my LinkedIn here, so feel free to reach out. And of course, happy to connect, but also answer any question meantime as well.
Okay, so if nobody has other questions, thank you very much, Nesrine, for being with us today. And to everyone here, hope to see you all at the Productized conference on October. And bye, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you a lot.
Bye. Thank you.